Welcome to this explainer on Nathaniel Branden's foundational work, The Psychology of Self-Esteem. Today, we're taking a journey inside the human mind to answer one of the most profound, deeply personal questions we can possibly ask ourselves. How does a person actually develop a healthy relationship with themselves? We're going to strip away the motivational cliches today. No hype, no empty platitudes. Instead, we're going to look calmly and clearly at the fundamental psychology of self-worth. We have to begin by stepping into a very quiet, very relatable space. It's that space of inner inadequacy and self-doubt that haunts so many people. Almost everyone at some point in their life lies awake at night wondering if they're fundamentally flawed or if they're simply not enough. We really need to validate that feeling first without making it into a pathology. It is an incredibly common human experience, but it begs the question, where does that deep-seated feeling actually come from? Branden explains that this chronic dread, this ambient anxiety, is often a psychological alarm signal. Think about it like physical pain. Just as physical pain tells you to pull your hand away from a hot stove, this formless floating fear is a warning system. It's warning us of a failure in how we're using our own consciousness to face reality. It's your mind's way of telling you that somewhere, somehow, your internal world is out of alignment with the objective world around you.
Section 1. What self-esteem really is.
To fix this misalignment we just talked about, we first have to shatter the cultural confusion around what self-worth actually means. This is so important. True self-esteem is never about arrogance. It's not about ego, it's not a sense of superiority, and it is certainly not pretending to be confident just to win someone else's approval. Branden categorizes those behaviors as an irrational defense, something he calls pseudo-self-esteem. It's just a mask. It's a self-protective device people use to temporarily turn down the volume on their anxiety, providing a fake sense of security while completely ignoring the real causes of their self-doubt. Instead, authentic self-esteem is built on two unshakable pillars. The first pillar is self-efficacy. That is the fundamental belief that you are capable of dealing with life's basic challenges. It's trusting your own mind to think, to learn, and to make choices. The second pillar is self-respect. That's the deep-seated conviction that you are inherently worthy of happiness, worthy of success, and worthy of love. When you have these two pillars standing strong, you experience the world as open to you. You're motivated not by a frantic fear of failure, but by the actual joy of living. But when people lack these two pillars, a really tragic cycle begins. As Branden observes, they feel desperately driven to fake it. They might chase societal status, romantic conquests, or just endless external validation from their peers. But in doing so, they condemn themselves to a chronic psychological fraud. And the true irony here? Deep down, they know they're faking it. And that internal knowing only deepens their self-distrust. You simply cannot trick your own mind.
Section 2. The power of conscious living.
So how do we move away from living in illusion? Well, the very first foundation we have to reconstruct to build true self-efficacy is what Branden calls the practice of living consciously. Living consciously means actively choosing to think, to judge, and to face facts. It's the opposite of wandering through your life in a self-induced mental fog. It is an active, daily commitment to honor sight over blindness. It means we make the difficult choice to not look away from the things that make us uncomfortable. We actually try to understand the reality of our situations, our finances, our relationships, and most importantly, our own inner workings. Let's think about how this plays out in real life. Say a person throws their mind out of focus to deliberately avoid acknowledging a failing relationship. Or perhaps they're ignoring a really difficult truth about their career trajectory. They retreat into the comfort of a mental fog because it feels safer. And sure, they might gain a momentary, fleeting relief from their anxiety. But the problem is still there. Reality doesn't vanish just because we decide to close our eyes to it. And here is the crucial point regarding how this evasion directly impacts your self-worth. Avoiding reality actively weakens your self-esteem because it creates a massive contradiction between what you secretly know to be true and how you are currently acting. Your mind registers this evasion as a literal act of self-betrayal. It leaves you with a lingering, chronic self-distrust. On the flip side, facing reality, no matter how painful or awkward it might be in the short term, actually strengthens your inner foundation. It proves to your own mind that you are strong enough to handle the truth. Section 3. Responsibility, integrity, and action. Building a healthy relationship with yourself requires accepting personal responsibility, and that often starts with a stark yet incredibly liberating realization. As Branden brilliantly puts it, no one is coming. No one is coming to redeem your childhood. No one is coming to fix your life, hand you happiness, or rescue you. You are the sole author of your choices, your actions, and your well-being. Realizing that you are the one at the wheel of your own life creates a profound sense of self-respect. You stop waiting for a rescuer, and you fully assume the psychological autonomy of your own life. Building closely on that conscious living and personal responsibility, we have to anchor our self-worth through the daily practice of integrity. Because remember, self-esteem isn't just about what we sit around and think. It is heavily dependent on how we act in the real world. Think of a scenario where you're with a group of people and someone casually attacks a value you hold deeply. Out of fear of not belonging, or maybe just a fear of making waves, you stay passively silent. You nod along. On the surface, you kept the peace. But internally, what just happened? Internally, that silence was a breach of your own integrity. Integrity is about integrating your internal ideals with your actual external behavior. It's about keeping promises to yourself. When your actions clash with your own judgment, when you behave as a hypocrite just to fit into a room, you're committing treason to your own mind. This deeply, deeply wounds your relationship with yourself. It damages you in a subtle way that no external rejection ever could. This brings us to a really vital question we all have to ask ourselves. Are you living for reality? Or are you living for the approval of others? This inner conflict over our integrity often stems from a psychological trap Branden calls social metaphysics. This happens when a person stops looking at objective facts and instead substitutes the consciousness of other people for reality. People, not facts, become their reality. Their primary tool of survival just becomes pleasing, placating, or maneuvering the people around them. Ultimately, judging your worth purely by the approval of others is an act of self-abdication. It completely destroys your psychological sovereignty. A default on your integrity contaminates your sense of self. It's quite simple, really. You cannot feel worthy of happiness if your happiness is constantly held hostage by the shifting, unpredictable opinions of the crowd.
Section 4. Building your self-esteem. So, having mapped out all these pitfalls, how do we actively construct a healthy psychology moving forward? It's a step-by-step journey. Trust in oneself is not granted overnight, and it's certainly not a magical gift you're just born with. It is built through the rigorous, quiet discipline of repeating conscious actions until they become enduring habits. You have to choose to live consciously. You have to accept responsibility, assert your own judgment, and ensure that your daily behavior actually matches your inner values.
Because ultimately, self-esteem is simply the reputation you acquire with yourself over time. It's not something you find hidden under a rock or something a guru can hand to you. It is something you build through the way you think, act, and live every single day. And that leaves us with an incredibly empowering realization. A healthy relationship with your own mind is always within your power to construct. So I'll leave you with this thought to reflect on today. If your self-esteem is simply the reputation you have with yourself, what kind of reputation did your actions today build?